If you have played KSP for any length of time, you will have gone to the astronaut complex to hire new crew for your next mission, as all your other crew is already on a different mission, and there could not possibly be another reason. And when you take a look at these Kerbals, you will notice that they have a few traits. The most important one is of course their occupation or expertise, but in addition they also have a measure of courage and stupidity. And people have been wondering what these actually do, and before I'm going to explain what these do, I want to show you the courage and stupidity distribution of the Kerbals first. Like how rare are Kerbals of a certain bravery or intelligence. Typically, these types of things follow something called a Gaussian or normal distribution. It shows the frequency at which something occurs for different values. And it has two main attributes, the average value and the width of the distribution. Things like height and IQ are typical things that take on such a distribution shape among populations. But it is certainly not restricted to just demographics, it can also be used in physics. So, does the courage or stupidity of these Kerbals take on such a distribution? To do that, we need to pull a bunch of Kerbals. So I hired around 200 Kerbals for our study. If you then go to the persistent file of your save, you will be able to see the exact values of courage and stupidity of your Kerbals. So I noted all of these down, by hand. And these are the distributions I got. And as you can see, these do not take on a normal distribution. Kerbal intelligence and stupidity are especially overrepresented at the fringes over here, which is fascinating. Kerbal courage does take on a slightly different shape. Maybe I should include more Kerbals to be sure, but I think these traits do not take on a normal distribution. Another thing we can check. Is there a relation between courage and stupidity? Like, the more stupid a Kerbal is it more likely to be courageous? Well, I plotted this out as well, and as you can see right here, there is absolutely no correlation between these two traits. And it seems to be completely random. Now, I have been told that stupidity in the game affects how Kerbals react when faced with dangerous situations. It is basically their situational awareness. Courage, on the other hand, does influence gameplay. If you have Kerbal G-forces enabled, that is. The more courageous a Kerbal is, the more G-forces it can take. There are actually 4 different things that determine how well Kerbals can take on G-forces. These are occupation, level, courage, and whether they have the badass factor. And yes, I am serious. If you go to the traits.cfg file, you will find a G-force tolerance factor for each type of Kerbal per level. And you will see that pilots can take on the most and tourists are the worst. But what does this factor mean? And what about the other traits? Well, go to the physics.cfg file and scroll a bit downwards. You will find a few things that refer to G tolerance. Now this actually contains a lot of information, but what it boils down to are these 2 things. Each Kerbal has their own G tolerance threshold, at which they lose consciousness. The base value is 60,000. And it gets probably multiplied by the occupation and level factor, then by the courage value times 1.5, and then times 1.5 if they are a badass. So how do they reach this value? Well, based on the information that we have, it seems as Kerbals get affected by G-forces, they build up some value that I will call G-effect. Each time increment, this value increases depending on the G-forces that are being experienced, and it seems to be exponential. I estimate that this time increment is every second. So as soon as Kerbals experience significant G-forces, some kind of counter goes up. So my guess is that every second this G-effect increases by this much. If the accumulated value crosses the threshold of the Kerbal, they get knocked out. I put this to the test by plunging a few Kerbals into Eve's atmosphere, and what I found is this. Here we have the accumulated G-effect over time that the Kerbals experience. These green lines are the threshold of Kerbals at which I expect them to lose consciousness. And as you can see, the point at which I saw them get knocked out was a few seconds later. Note that because of the fact that the G-reader does not give off values greater than 15 Gs, I could not give an accurate value of the G-effect from here on out, so the actual accumulated G-effect should probably be higher. So, sadly, what I gathered from the physics file and the equation that I came up with seems to be incomplete. However, there's one upside, and that is that the Kerbals with the lowest threshold did lose consciousness first. So the higher the threshold, the better they can take it. So even though I cannot predict the exact moment they lose it, this threshold value does tell you which Kerbals are best fit for high G maneuvers. Now, both Jeb and Val are apparently certified badasses, and that has a big influence on G tolerance. So I wonder, what percentage of candidate astronauts are badasses? Well, I took another look at the persistence file, and after looking at 100 Kerbals, I found that 7 of them had this factor. This includes Jeb and Val, and as far as I know, there's no way of knowing if a Kerbal has this badass factor, unless you let them face imminent death. I want to point out that memberships are now a thing on this channel, so if you want to help me out, then please consider becoming a member. You will get access to these cool badges, emojis, and to exclusive membership community posts, where you will see behind the scenes stuff. For now, I will see you next time.